and particularly with apples, right?
Yes, Johnny Appleseed was a young man in Massachusetts, and when he was 18, he moved to Pennsylvania with his brother to start being an apprentice at an apple orchard and start planting seeds. So he started at a very young age.
Wow.
Yeah.
With a passion, it sounds like.
Yeah.
He had some mission or passion.
He was a missioner for the new church.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He loved spreading God's words, and he loved doing that.
He was a nature boy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Quite the nature boy.
So he saw the whole total picture of nature and God were one almost, right?
He believed in that strongly, and he wanted to make sure that everyone in the Midwest had the word, all the settlers, and he wanted to make sure that all the settlers near the Midwest had apples, like to eat, as a food, as a source of food, and he wanted to make sure that they had apples to make apple cider.
Yes, and of course, Marlisa, back in those days, they were always concerned about drinking water and maybe infected drinking water, so it made a lot of those settlers very happy because they could make what was called applejack or apple brandy.
Right.
Because those apples were a little bit tart originally, right, Carlina?
Yes.
They were tart. Not all of them were for eating and things like that. So
some were poisoned, actually, or like they had...
The seeds,
their
originally, the seeds, so they just make them into different drinks. So what did Johnny Appleseed do from there? I mean, he went, spread the wealth, spread all the seeds. And
he had a very good relationship with the Native American Indians.
Oh,
yeah. They called him the blessed man from...
Touched
by the great spirit
of the sky, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they had such a great relationship that the Native American Indians actually taught him about different medicinal plants and where they're from, where to find them, how to make them grow.
So he planted more than just apple orchards and
a lot
things.
more.
He did all the...
I'm sorry.
all the medicinal plants.
I was just remembering how I had thought that he had traveled the whole country. My memory just remembered that. But he was walking, and it was way back when, so he couldn't get as far as I thought.
Oh, yeah.
So we have a map, actually, of where he actually planted his orchard.
That's a lot of walking.
That is a lot of walking.
I mean, think about walking through Connecticut. These are big states.
Oh, yeah.
And the Northwest Territory, that had just opened up, so we hadn't even gone much further than that, had we?
Well, the Lewis and Clark was before that, but still, it's a wild wilderness
it's settlement,
out there.
Right? That's a pretty.
I mean, this is going back in the
large
1820s,
area.
1830s, and a lot of this country was unsettled back then.
And that postage stamp actually didn't come into play until 1966, so there was a huge gap.
Yeah.
I love that. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful.
It's a work of art.
It is a work of art. Now, what about that pot they have on his head in a lot of the depictions?
Yeah, well, actually, it's not really a hat. It's more of like he used it for cooking and eating. So he didn't have a bag to put it in on his travels, so he just plopped it on his head.
Well, that's cute.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of
practical.
A lot of things about apples. I mean, there's so many apples, right?
Yes.
How many?
Over 7,500 different varieties of apples.
I wouldn't have guessed that if it was a trick question.
That's a lot of apples.
There's a
I'd be
few right
surprised
there.
where a lot of them came from. The original seeds, right?
Yeah, they actually mostly originated from Kazakhstan, which is located in Central Asia.
Ah, big country just west of China. It's amazing that most of the seeds actually came from that one place in the world, they determined.
Who would have known?
And apples, aren't they one of the most cultivated foods on the planet?
Yes.
They are massively found everywhere, all around,
Yes.
so they've really made their way.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's just incredible. Because I've just put the apple in the back seat. I just don't have it enough in my diet. And since we started doing the preparation for the show, I've just been eating apples all the time.
Yeah, you kind of take them for granted.
You
in a
do.
way, right? They're there.
We've had them.
Kinds.
Like I said, there's so many new fruits and new diet trends. So
Yeah.
you're trying all different things, and some things can fall away. So bring the apple back, folks.
Yeah, bring it back. So I have a question for you as our nutritionist. Is there a big difference at all between a green and a red apple?
Oh, good question.
First of all, they're both fantastic for you. But nature has its own ways of telling you what has more nutrients. So, a a fruit or a vegetable or a plant with a darker pigment, like red, blues, like blueberries, purples, for beets, they actually have more nutrition and nutrients in them.
Like in the red delicious apple.
Yes.
Yeah. There was a Canadian study I read about that had the most antioxidants, the deep red delicious apple, than any other apple on the market.
Makes sense.
Yeah, nature has a way of telling us. But they're both great.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Okay. And now the other tradition is when I was a young student, one time I brought an apple to my teacher as a gift. That was an old tradition. I don't see it as much today. Do you?
No,
as
and
much
where
today in our
does it
schools?
come from? Where's that tradition
Actually,
come from?
in Scandinavian countries, when parents couldn't afford to pay for their children's education, they just gave the teacher a basket of apples.
And that worked.
Yeah, it worked.
Wow, that's awesome.
And then they brought that tradition
Yeah.
to America? I see. And, well, were there any other reasons they might have been bringing apples?
Well, there's one other reason. An apple for the teacher will always do the trick when you don't know your lessons in arithmetic.
That's a
So,
good
are you
prop.
suggesting that to students, if you're not, it's okay, as long as you bring an apple to the teacher, it's okay to not do your homework?
Nope.
Okay, thanks. So anyway, Johnny Appleseed, the one thing about that stamp, many states celebrate Johnny Appleseed Day with Arbor Day.
That's right.
In combination, Arbor Day. And Arbor Day is in Connecticut. When is it?
It's April 29th.
April 29th. And what is it?
It's the day where we celebrate not only Johnny Appleseed, but all the benefits of trees and all the great things they've done for us.
And that's a day that everybody should go out and plant trees?
Yes.
And what are some of the benefits of trees?
Well, they actually they cool our streets.
Yeah.
Yeah, they cool and shade our streets, which reduces our need for electricity.
That's-
Oh,
Excellent.
and reduces pollution,
Yes.
too. So
Yes,
it just trickles
and-
down the line.
And they help filtering our air and water.
Yeah, I read a study a number of years ago in Harvard that they detoxified the air of the trees. They calculated it removed 73 tons of pollutants
That's
just by having those
amazing.
trees around Harvard. Yeah. So also they have, it's nature, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah, they're very good for relaxing, just being around nature.
sure,
And the energy of the tree root, you
Yeah.
can take your shoes off and just sit down next to that and just absorb all that wonderful earth energy. And root energy is very grounding to be near trees. And it's awesome to
It's
climb.
very calming, yes.
Really fun to
Yeah.
climb trees, too, and sit
Yeah.
in the crux and
yeah, so there's so much to it. And we kind of, today the purpose of our show is to bring back a lot of the ancestral wisdom, our relationship with nature. And you see in our society today that young people, and all people for that matter, are more indoors than they've ever been before. They're not out taking enough hikes in nature or looking at trees and looking at leaves and really, understanding.
just breathing outside air.
Yeah, understanding exactly, the beauty of nature. I took Carlina for a tree walk up at the Ansonia Nature Center, a 2-hour tree walk, and we identified every single tree. It
That's
was
so much fun.
fascinating to learn
now
everything
when I'm
about
driving on the highway, I try to identify the trees. So
And there's an app, actually, isn't there, where you can, if you have a leaf, you can take
Oh,
a
yeah,
picture
yeah.
of that, and it can identify
Yes,
if you're in a
yes.
creek and you need to.
I guess there's an app for everything, right?
There is, yeah. There's an apple for everything.
So let's, well, first of all, thank you, Carlina, for giving us that insight on Jeff
Wait,
and Appleseed.
but I have one message to go out to the world. So on Arbor Day, I encourage you to celebrate and plant a tree not just for Johnny Appleseed, but for me.
Oh, okay. We'll do that just for you. And for everyone.
Yes,
and
for
the
everyone.
planet, for the environment, for everything like that. So that's wonderful. Well, in summarizing our Apple show, I mean, we started off with just a little aphorism, an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
And it keeps
And
the
then